There is an 8-lane road around our neighborhood, not suitable for a small town like ours. Of course, not many vehicles pass by on the road. Road without speed camera. People drove well above the speed limit. One midnight, there was an accident. A girl who was passing the road was hit by a vehicle. It was a hit and run. A few hours later, the girl was found by a car passing by, but deceased on her way to the emergency. Doctor said if she had been taken to the emergency immediately, she could have lived. Soon after, a wanted list with high bounty to find the suspect was hung. I called the number.
Hello? Yes, I saw what happened.
In fact, I witnessed nothing. All I wanted was the bounty. I was definitely not proud of what I did, but still needed the money.
Did you really witness the accident?
Yes,
Any pictures or videos taken? We need evidence.
I don't have any.
I was nervous and felt that I won't be getting the money. Then, I recalled an officer from the news saying that a white-colored broken piece of bumper was found on the crime scene. I said,
I certainly saw a white vehicle. I guarantee it was white.
I see. Have you called the police?
Not yet. I'm still not sure of the plate number.
the guy over the phone seemed to be in deep thought. Then,
I'll see you at the crime scene after the midnight.
Midnight.
Yes, you might recall something else from seeing the crime scene at the exact time of incident. Oh, and don't tell anybody else. If the word travels, the suspect might get away for good.
meeting a stranger in the midnight was creepy, but I had to. And I never thought of telling anyone about my lies anyways. As the man said, I went to the crime scene in the midnight. A vehicle was hitting the road toward me. Quickly. Fortunately, I was found and saved by a vehicle passing by. I told everything from the wanted list to the phone call conversation, but the police couldn't find any evidence. Who were the hit and runs? There is a small playground nearby my apartment. Around sunset, a kid who lived upstairs always played with the sand alone. His parents then dropped by after work to pick him up. It seemed like a daily routine for them. The kid's parents both had 9-to-5 jobs, and they seemed like living in a world where only happiness exists. As far as I remember, they were always together. One day after work, I saw the kid playing with sand as usual. He was banging on the sand and mumbled, "Cockroach, cockroach." I asked him if there was a cockroach. He replied, "This is how my mom killed one last night." I thought it was kinda cute, thinking many kids copy exactly what their parents do. In a bit, the parents showed up and took the kid home. They still seemed good as usual. Next day after work, the kid was playing alone again, and I approached. The kid was hitting the sand with a fly swatter, mumbling, "Fly, fly." I asked the kid, "Is that how your mom caught flies last night?" He nodded. I thought it was adorable bringing fly swatter to the playground to imitate his parents. In a bit, his parents showed up as usual and took the boy home. Seemed happy as usual. Next day, the kid was there, playing alone. I approached to see what he's doing, and this time, I couldn't say a word. The boy was stabbing the sand repeatedly with a knife, mumbling, "Daddy, Daddy." Soon after, it was just the kid's mom dropped by and took him home. Since then, I've never seen his dad again. There was a psychic who once surprised the world. He didn't say a word, but only marked the map with circle. Surprisingly, the circle on the map pointed out the exact location of robbery, lost wallets, and clues for crimes. One day, a couple visited the psychic for help to find their child who ran away. The psychic looked at the couple for a while, and then shook his head slightly. The couple criticized the psychic and called him a fraud. The psychic had no choice but to open the map. The psychic showed the marked map, and the couple could close their jaws. There were dozens of circles marked on the map. This happened while I was employed in the previous company. The company was located in the newly developing city. There was an underground passage between the train station and the company, which was the only way to get there. There were always homeless people taking naps or begging for money. It was quite stressful to the people walking down the passage, seeing those drunken homeless people picking fights or insulting people. Some called the police, but the homeless disappeared only for a few hours. Then the underground passage was again filled with them. In summer, something even more disturbing than their aggressive behavior was their smell. Without taking the shower for months, the passage was filled with unspeakable stench. In many aspects, walking down the passage was extremely troublesome. However, people were too scared to take any action, worrying that people with nothing to lose are not afraid to do anything. One of the days of hot weather, a new colleague joined our company. She was freshly graduated from university, full of passion. Everyone liked her energetic attitude. However, she still had some trouble with interpersonal relationship with being too firm or stubborn. She had to use the passage like others, and had called the police several times to report the homeless people. Despite the efforts, there wasn't any progress to the circumstance, and the colleague started to complain to the homeless directly. She said that their presence and smell makes people feel uncomfortable and suggested them to go somewhere else. Unlike crowd's expectation, homeless people didn't react much to the complaints. They were just staring at the colleague, criticizing the way they lived. The next day, something unbelievable happened. The troublesome homeless were all gone, and everyone in the company thanked her. Even the police officers couldn't solve the issue. People wondered how she managed to convince them. She didn't know how she did it either, but telling the truth about their presence perhaps touched their last remaining piece of pride. It didn't matter as long as they were gone. Everyone was excited that the passage will finally be clean without those troublesome homeless. As days go on, the disgusting smell started to fade away. One day, everyone in the office could smell faint stench. It was quite familiar. Even in hot weather, people opened the window to refresh the air, but the stench got worse the day after day. A few days later, people found the source of stench. It was from the new employee's cubicle. As colleagues accused her of the smell, she denied and doubted one of the colleagues for the stench. A few days later, her body started to smell the same, and people in the office kept some distance to avoid her. For the first time, she confessed to the colleagues that her entire home was filled with a disgusting smell. Neither doing laundry nor buying new clothes didn't solve the problem. Even after countless cleaning of the house and using full bottle of perfume, the smell didn't go away. After all, she quit her job and moved. Not long after she moved, the homeless people reappeared in the passage, and it started to stink again. It was the same smell from her body. This happened soon after I moved to a new apartment. I had a girlfriend, Jessie, who lived around the neighborhood, and we were having a little stroll after having dinner. There was a gorgeous-looking girl passed me by in a hurry and went into one of the apartments. Jessie said, "Are you seriously staring at her when I'm right next to you? You gotta be kidding me." "What? No, I wasn't. I was just checking out the neighborhood." "Yeah, right. I know exactly what would have happened if I wasn't here." "Come on, Jessie. Not this again." While we were having an argument, a guy rushed toward us, short of breath, asked us in a hurry, "Hey, have you seen a long-haired girl in the skinny jeans?" Seemed like he was talking about the girl who just passed us. A second before my mouth started moving, Jessie stopped me and said, "Can I ask why?" He hesitated for a second, then started talking with full of pleading in the face. He said, "Actually, I was trying to make a proposal to her, but for some reason she took it wrong. I just want to apologize and take things back to where it was before." I could see Jessie putting her guards down just by looking at her face with a smile. She pointed her finger to the apartment the girl went. He rushed down to the apartment and we were just staring at him. Jessie said, "Well, that's kind of romantic. Being part of someone else's romance, our hearts were full." Suddenly, Jessie put on a serious face and said, "Wait, what kind of boyfriend doesn't even know where his girlfriend lives?" It was this moment. Something big fell down. "Please." We rushed towards the place. It was a girl, blood all over her body. Her frightened and resentful eyes were staring at us. I started to take swimming lessons from last summer. When I go for practice, I usually prefer the early morning when the pool isn't crowded with people. As I expected, the pool wasn't crowded. Despite the early time of day, there were still early birds who shared the same thought. Unlike other swimming pools, this pool had no lanes, and it gets deeper and deeper every few meters, which easily go over my height around at the midpoint. One day after a few days of lesson, it was pouring. There was no one in the pool due to the bad weather. Swimming in a spacious pool by myself, unexplainable fear rushed in. A woman of my age appeared. One of the familiar faces I usually see in the morning swim. Just by having someone else in the pool, the fear has vanished, and I started to swim again. Soon after, perhaps trying to impress her, braveness dragged my body down to the deeper side of the pool. Suddenly, I realized I couldn't move my feet. I was getting a cramp. Already in the deep side of the pool, I couldn't do anything but gulping water, trying to escape. For last, I used all my energy to shout out for help. Perhaps the woman was shocked. She was just watching me drowning. When I woke up, I was in the ambulance. Swimming coach passed by, pulled me out. I got out of the hospital the next day, but never returned to the swimming pool. It wasn't because I almost drowned. Instead, it was the woman watching me while drowning. Just before I blacked out, I remembered. She was smiling. This happened to my grandmother in the winter of early 1960s. For a grandfather who needed clean clothes the next day in a hurry, my grandmother went out to do the laundry even though it was late at night. There wasn't any laundry machine in the households back in the time, thus people in the neighborhood usually gather up at a place like well or valley to wash their clothes. Washing stick was used to get rid of dirt and stains by smacking the clothes. It was extremely unusual to do laundry late at night, and my grandmother, sitting alone in front of running water, began her job in the faint moonlight. Not long after she started, Grandma realized there was another woman washing clothes next to her. She missed her coming, perhaps because the surroundings were too dark. My granny tried to make small chat to break the silence. No reply. She was just smacking real hard. Grandmother decided not to try any harder because she thought the woman seemed too shy or not in the mood, and it was too dark to recognize who it was anyways. Soon after, the mysterious woman started to swing the stick stronger and stronger, and water splashed all over to my grandmother's side. Granny first thought it was a mistake, but soon got disturbed as she realized the woman was making stronger and stronger. Granny said, "Take it easy, you're splashing too much water on me." She stopped her swing and turned her face to Granny with silence. It was too dark, and Grandma couldn't clearly see anything, but spine-chilling crawled on her back. She packed her stuffs in a hurry and rushed home. As soon as my grandma left, the woman continued to smack her laundry. The sound didn't stop till my granny got pretty far away from the place. When she came back home, everyone was shocked. They couldn't believe what they saw. She was covered with blood all over her body. What was the woman doing beside my grandmother with the stick that night? This happened to one of my friends who lived alone in city for work. She couldn't recognize the voice.
Hello, you live in Unit 301, right?
She thought it was suspicious, asking the address from the start.
Don't worry, I'm just here to help. Seems like you just got out of the shower wearing different pajamas from yesterday.
She hung up with fear. She felt creepy and closed the curtain in a hurry. She thought, since when had he been peeping on me? Her fear got her even more confused. She calmed herself, then picked up the phone to call the police. That moment, her phone started ringing again.
Don't hang up. Please listen to what I say.
It was the man.
I'm here to help. If I was peeping on you, why would I even bother trying to let you know? There has been someone under your bed for past few days. Just pretend this as a casual phone call and leave the unit before he notices.
She had no other option but to believe what the man said. Who would expose of his own crime? She decided to listen to the man over the phone. As the man said, she pretended having a casual conversation on the phone and headed to the door. All she had in her head was that she needed to get out of the unit immediately. The moment she reached the doorknob, she felt another unexplainable fear. Before she unlocked the door, she locked the door chain. Then, she opened the door. The moment a stranger was forcing the door open as strong as he could. The guy said,
"You're even more beautiful watching down here."
She closed the door immediately, then called the police, but the man was already gone. What would have happened if she hadn't locked the door chain? Until now, she still suffers from the fear and always leaves the curtains closed.
There was a lovely but chubby lady waiting for her wedding. She wanted to make her wedding perfect, and she wanted to look perfect too. But she failed every diet she tried. One day, while online, she found a new method. She finally found a site with a reasonable price. All seemed to be perfect, except the exaggerated message, "You will become nothing but skin and bones." She called there to make sure it was not a bluff. The manager of the center said the payment will be made on the last day of the program, and that relieved all of her worries. Before their talk ended, the manager added a good tip, which was not to tell anyone about her fast plan, even her fiancé. It was for doubling the surprise on her wedding day. She thought it was cute and gladly decided to follow it. She headed to the Daya Center, which was in the middle of the mountains. "This is for the perfect wedding," she mumbled. Despite her wish, the wedding was not successful. Actually, the bride never showed up. A few days later, there was a familiar ad online, but it had a new phone number. In the advertisement, the exaggerated message said, "You will become nothing but skin and bones." The investigators came in. They asked me to tell them about anything that I can remember about the case. I was asked the same thing from yesterday, but by different people. I told them I couldn't remember anything, but they were persistent. I really couldn't remember. The doctor said it was temporal amnesia because my head was hit so hard. They pushed me. It was to prevent more victims. I was the only survivor. It all happened when I went camping with my college friends last weekend. And some guys suddenly appeared and attacked us. All of my friends were killed. Everybody, except me. Maybe they thought I was dead since I was bleeding a lot. For my friends, I tried my best to remember the suspects, but nothing came up. The investigators seemed so anxious, but finally, they decided to give up. Once they turned to the door, something just popped in my head. I started to panic. The investigators seemed to feel my fear. Then they stopped and looked back with an eerie smile. Yeah. You remember us. There was a top magician in the city. His magic show was mainly made up of cutting people in a box with an electric saw. The participant looked so painful, as if it was real. And finally, they acted like they passed out. The highlight of the cutting magic was the participants' act. The actors were different each time, but all of them did act like they were really getting cut. Sometimes the audience suspected if it was real, but they finally forgot about that when the participant walked out from the box with not even a single injury. In the audience, they all stood up and cheered and applauded for the magician and the actors. Meanwhile, there was a town far from the city where the magic show took place. In a job center, there was a recruiting advertisement that was always posted on a board. Maybe no one had been hired yet. The ad said, "The magic show agency is looking for twin actors." There was a fortune teller with sensational psychic powers. She had correctly foreseen the future of all of her visitors. At the end of every visit, she always added that the future could never be changed. One day, a desperate man who failed both his job and marriage came in. Once the foreteller looked at the man's eyes, she shook her head, which meant no. The man begged her to tell him his future. Finally, she decided to tell him. "You will soon kill an innocent person and will be sentenced for your whole life in jail." The man panicked. He can't let bad luck screw up his life anymore. He asked her for a solution to avoid it. However, she told him she couldn't help change anything concerning his future. It was destined, and there was no power for her to change anything. The man's anger exploded. He came here for another chance to recover his life, but he couldn't accept that he would be a murderer and would spend the rest of his life in jail. It all sounded like the fortune teller was just cursing him. His anger went beyond its limit. He pulled out a knife, which was actually supposed to be used to kill himself. The fortune teller's screams were as violent as her death. I decided to complete something that was on my bucket list while traveling alone: bungee jumping. It wasn't a holiday season, so there wasn't anyone else. Some friends who had bungee jump experience advised me not to get confused between go and no. There were a number of accidents in the past that people got confused between go and no due to the heavy wind, which caused many people to jump without safety devices connected. When I first heard that, I thought it was just a joke, but the thought changed as I was put in front of the jump. Fear controlled my body, and I realized anyone could get confused between go and no under these conditions. Then I heard, "Go! Go!" from behind, telling me to jump, but I couldn't. The moment I looked down, my legs just froze. Again, I heard, "Go! Go!" from behind. The repeated sound annoyed me, so I looked back. Then I realized the safety ring that was supposed to be connected wasn't attached yet. I couldn't keep my legs standing. Just being in front of the jump without a safety device put me in shock. Imagine jumping without it. As I looked back with resentful eyes, the assistant, with an unsatisfied face, said, "No! No! No! No, no, no," which was completely different from what he had said. Go, go, go. I bet he changed his words when he saw me looking back. Olivia's new neighborhood is full of naughty kids. They ring the doorbell or kick the door, then they just run away. By the time she opens the door, they run away so fast that she can't even see who is knocking and kicking the door. At first, she didn't react too much. She just thought it was kids playing games. But she started to get quite stressed out one day. Since these games had been going on for too long, she decided she was going to teach them a lesson, if she could ever catch any of them. One day, thanks to their little prank, Olivia's anxiety was shooting through the roof. She thought, "This is the day I'm going to teach those kids a lesson." As soon as they rang the doorbell, she opened the door right away. This time, there were no kids running down the hall. Instead, a stranger was lurking behind the door. A few days after Olivia went missing, a new girl recently moved into the building, and the man watching behind her with a smile told the kids to play the game again. The kids replied, "You mean the doorbell ditch game?" Her new neighborhood is full of naughty kids. I decided to sleep in our spare bedroom after I had a big fight with my husband. Since then, there has been no talk. I haven't even seen him. This happens after every fight. Sometimes we don't even talk to each other for a week. But we both know this doesn't last long. He will relieve my anger, and I will accept his apology in the end. Like we always do. Everything will go back to normal. When I got home from work, the house was cleaned up. Because of the different quitting time, we used to dump the cleaning on each other. The clean house meant that my husband wanted to reconcile. The next morning, a breakfast was ready on the table. "What? You even cooked?" It was the first time he made something to eat. There was no more anger. I almost tried to talk to him, but I decided to postpone that so I can enjoy his surprises. Actually, he's called me a number of times, but I haven't answered yet. In the night, while I was sleeping, the door of my room opened. I was awake, but I didn't want him to come in yet. Still not in the mood to talk. "Get out, please." It seemed like he hesitated for a minute, just standing there. Please. When I asked him again, with a little annoyance in my voice, the door closed. The next day, I got a phone call from my husband on the way back from work. After a little hesitation, I finally answered his call.
You okay?
Why does he start with saying, "You okay?" What does it mean?
I heard someone was killed in our apartment. You should lock the door. Psycho husband stabbed his wife. He has serious germophobia. He hasn't been caught yet, so maybe he still walks around there. Actually, I'm in Singapore now for work. It was all of a sudden, so I couldn't tell you. You should have answered my calls. No talking for a week? You are really something. Well, I am sorry for everything. I will go back home tomorrow, so please feel better. And lock the door. Don't open the door for anybody.
He's been on a business trip for a week. Then who cleaned my house and prepared the food? That guy walking out of my bathroom. Who is he? This is a story about a vineyard in a remote countryside. One day, a new family moved into town. The family was sick of the hard lifestyle in the city, so they dreamed of their new lives in the relaxed and sociable rural town. However, unlike their wishes, the neighbors kept a distance from the newcomers. The area was well known for vineries, and the family wanted to start in this business. When the neighbors heard about the family's business, they laughed at the family and pointed out how difficult farming is. A year later, nevertheless, the neighbors were surprised at the family's grapes, which were a rare breed, and they were high quality too. The neighbors asked the family for tips on their success. However, the family ignored all requests by saying, "It's a secret." The family didn't want to share their tips with the mean neighbors who sneered at them from the beginning. Some years later, there was a drought. All of the villagers were at a loss, but the family's vineyard was thriving. The family succeeded their vinery work. Still, rare breed grapes with high quality. The neighbors asked them to share some fertilizer and tips. The family, again, denied their request. The villagers got really aggravated, and one of them visited the family and scorned them on how selfish they were. When the argument was getting heated, they started to wrestle. Finally, due to the uncontrolled fury, the neighbor killed the family. All of them. The entire village knew about it, but they kept it a secret for the sake of the town's peace. They all hated the family, and the family said they had no other relatives, so there were no worries about disclosure if all the residents shut their mouth. The family was buried at the side of the murderer's farm. They started to forget about the family. A year later, the rare breed and special quality grapes began to grow again. It was exactly the same as the family's. The neighbors panicked. It was because the grapes were growing at the same exact location where the family was buried a year earlier. There was no curse or spiritual power. The family secret was the buried body. After they realized what the mysterious fertilizer was, they could keep making high-quality grapes even if dry weather or a storm hit the town. Instead, every new neighbor was welcomed. Then, they suddenly disappeared. In the middle of the night, the alarms went off. And the next thing you know, the police arrived. Since nobody was answering the doorbell, the police kicked the door down and came in. There were two guys lying on the floor. They must be the intruders. There was a woman, who seemed to be the homeowner, next to them. She was shaking. Once she found the police, she looked relieved, and finally released a knife from her hand. The two male suspects were assumed to be dead at the scene. The police officers helped her to get out of the house.
Don't worry. It's self-defense. It's okay. I promise. Nothing bad will happen. You will soon get back to your house.
However, she never came back home. While the officers were busy, the woman disappeared. The police officer found a photo and was shocked. Those two young men lived at the house. The fortune teller was very spiritual. She predicted people's futures perfectly, especially when it comes to families or romantic relationships. One day, a few ladies came to the psychic. They were close friends. The fortune teller smiled and told one of them,
You will soon see your husband.
The lady was so happy with the news. Her husband was in the army and currently serving overseas. The fortune teller turned her head to the other lady, and then she shook her head. The lady got upset by the fortune teller's reaction and demanded that she tell her future. The fortune teller finally spoke up with a dark tone.
You will soon see your husband.
The lady panicked. Her husband died a year earlier in a car accident.
He didn't make it.
When his family heard the news, they all cried. They couldn't believe it. He was just fine a week ago. It was just for a simple treatment for gastritis. The patient was hospitalized last week. Since then, his condition worsened. He needed surgery. Then he suddenly died. The family couldn't just accept this. The doctor and nurse tried to comfort them. The doctor took a deep breath and sat down. It was a long day. 2 patients passed away that day. The nurse consoled him. His hand was shaking. This was not the first time, but he was never good at controlling his emotions when one of his patients passed away. To make himself feel better, he turned on the TV. There was some breaking news. The serial killer, who dressed up like a clown, was finally arrested. The serial killer killed 33 innocent people. He even showed off the fact that he killed one more victim than another notorious serial killer. Both the doctor and the nurse became very upset.
Son of a bitch! We're trying to save people here.
The nurse was so upset at him, and so was the doctor. Then, he leaned back in his chair. After the nurse left, he started to think about his next surgery.
Shit, I almost beat the record. I guess I need another one.
I've got this Jinx. I can remember little voices I hear while dreaming. If the voice told me something good, then bad things happen the next day. On the other hand, if the voice told me bad things, lucky things happened all day long. If I heard that I would do well on an exam in the dream, it means I would screw up on the exam the next day. If the voice told me I would meet a guy, my dream guy, on a blind date the next day, that day would be an awful and horrible experience. This is real. I told my girlfriends about this Jinx and I blamed all my bad luck on it. They all laughed at what I was saying.
That Jinx can't be real.
One of them asked me what was in the last dream. Well, I told them the good news. I told them that I heard that I will not go out with a guy that's my type. They, again, laughed at me. But soon, they were surprised at what really happened to me. The guy of every girl's dream just asked me to go out on a date with him this weekend. I was shocked, but I knew this would happen because of the Jinx, so I acted normally, and I said yes. All the girls were so jealous of what just happened to me. The night before the date, the girls came over to my place. They helped me with the clothes, the makeup, and even taught me how to talk to boys. After hours of date coaching, we decided to have a slumber party. It had been such a long time since we had a sleepover. After stupid conversations and laughing, we tried to sleep. I started to dream. I heard a little voice trying to talk to me. The voice became clear. It was totally different from what I've heard in the other dreams. Finally, I started to wake up, but I couldn't open my eyes yet. My friends whispered in my ears one by one.
You will kiss the guy of your dreams. He won't be a murderer. He will never kill you and cut you in a million pieces and throw you in a river.
Those bitches. I thought they were my friends. They kept whispering good things in my ears all night long. She has killed 23 people, but hasn't been caught. No one could imagine this woman would be the notorious serial killer. Okay, one more kill, then I'm done, she promised herself. Her husband was the last target. It was the only excusable murder. Her husband was terrible and deserved to die. Honey, all done? Yep, almost. When you're done, come out for dinner, okay? Thanks, honey. Huh. You seem to have worked harder on this one. What's the title of the fiction? It's not a fiction this time. I told you I'm working on my autobiography. Autobiography, eh? Well, do you need any help? Of course. I need your help to finish this book. It's been a long time since this couple had a day off. So after cleaning their apartment, I turned on the TV and started watching it. There was breaking news about a murder case in the area. The suspect stabbed a number of people and ran away. What? It's in our neighborhood, and he's still not caught? You locked the door, right, babe? I'll go check it real fast. Oh, I'm so scared. Shouldn't we go out until he's found? I think it would be safer if we're in a crowded area. Okay, then go get my t-shirt, will ya? Which one? Just, the white one, please. White? Where is it? It's right there. Where? All my t-shirts in that closet are white. Why can't you find it? What? No, they're all red. What are you talking about?
Breaking news. The suspect must be bleeding because he was shot by the police. Again, the suspect is assumed to be bleeding a lot. If you find a suspicious man bleeding, please call the police right away. And please, lock your doors.
When I was a college student, I lived in an old apartment. It was a small studio. I paid about $200 a month for it. I was kind of lucky to get a room for such a cheap price downtown. I enjoyed my independent life and was satisfied with most things there. Until the owner of the building disappeared suddenly. Without him, the old apartment was not managed like before. It was so spooky, like ghosts were living there or something. Because of the internship at this film company, I took a year off from school. I worked as a film crew staff member, so I always came back home very late. There was no elevator. Each time I walked to my room on the third floor, I got shivers down my spine for no actual reason. Since the apartment was close to the subway, the neighborhood was full of adult places like clubs and bars. Tons of crime there. It was kind of a crime-ridden area, so I always felt a little tense. One night, I tried to come home. I was so exhausted. I found a food waste bag that was open in front of my door. The garbage disposal system of the apartment was broken, so we had to put the waste bag in front of the door. Then the manager took it away. But due to the absence of the manager, the disposal was delayed for a day, or sometimes even more. When the place was full of garbage, it was cleaned. Then sometimes street dogs or cats got in there and messed up the bags, so I ignored the open garbage bag. But I felt weird anyway. Also, it started to stink real bad. I cleaned it and went inside. The old door didn't even have a peephole. So, if anyone knocked, I had to open and check to see who it was. My manager was missing, I was planning on moving out soon, so I didn't want to spend extra money for a safeguard on the door. The building was an absolute mess. It had no control. I could often hear someone yelling out and running down the hall in the middle of the night. And also I had to be patient when the prankster started knocking. Well, I almost opened the door and complained about it, but I couldn't. And none of my neighbors actually did that. It was the crime-ridden area, and nobody wanted to go face-to-face with a psycho stranger in the middle of the night. It was a nasty idea to open the door with no safeguard. Someone called the police, and when they came, the freaky prank stopped for a while. But it never really stopped. It happened every single day. When coming home became so intolerably stressful, it happened. Same as the other nights, I was heading home late. When I walked up the stairs and was about to turn a corner, I heard something wrestling. I almost screamed as soon as I saw it. A stranger, might be homeless, messed up the garbage bag. And ate the food waste there. I hid myself before he noticed. Who's that guy? Why is he eating food waste? The dirty, disgusting, stinky, nasty. I hesitated for a second. What should I do? Should I go home? Or call the police? I don't want to screw it up. People become offensive if their dirty secret is discovered. Also, the man could attack me if he finds out I saw his disgraceful menu. I decided to wait for him until he finishes his meal. But after 5 minutes, 10 minutes, he was still eating. My fatigue started to turn into anger. It's kinda ironic. I was so exhausted by working with these stupid people at my job. And again, here I am waiting for this idiot to finish his disgusting meal. I decided to head to my room. I was making noisy steps so he can know that I was getting close, and wish he would run away when he heard me. But he didn't notice anything, just focused on eating his meal. When I almost got to the door, he sensed me standing there. I pretended it was nothing and stared at him. He also looked at me for a while, then stood up and walked down the hall going the opposite direction. He went in the next door. The guy was not homeless. He was my neighbor. I freaked out. It was my neighbor eating food waste and messing up the garbage bags. I wanted to leave the apartment as soon as possible. Immediately after I closed the door, he started screaming out in some unknown language. He kept knocking on my door. I'm still not sure if it was the same guy who ate the food waste. I called the police right away, but the officer said there was nobody living next door. It was pretty traumatic, and I suffered from it until I left this place. Whenever there was a knock on the door, I opened it with a hand holding a knife behind my back. Since then, a long time has passed. But when someone knocks on the door instead of ringing the doorbell, I think about what happened. The creepy building psycho resident who ate my garbage.
Mama! Mommy!
What is it, sweetie?
I hear strange sounds from the closet. I think there's something in there.
It's nothing, dear. It's just our new house. You'll get used to it.
Mama, I'm scared. I want to sleep with you.
Okay.
Where's Daddy?
Oh, Daddy's so tired. He's already asleep.
Mom, when are you going to clean?
Tomorrow. I have no energy now.
But if you don't clean right away, won't the floor have red stains?
Don't worry. There won't be too much blood.
Well, this house is too big.
It's our home now.
He went after her without letting her notice. He was her stalker. He learned where her job was, what her favorite shopping mall was, and what restaurant she liked. He watched everything about her. Actually, he lived next door to her. For a month, he stalked her. He searched through her mailbox and found her birth date, phone number, and favorite numbers. He combined those numbers to try to unlock her door every single day. And finally, he broke into her room. He looked around her room. He put up a little camera to see her whenever he wanted. When he got out of her room, he thought, all done. Now I can watch her 24/7. Ain't gonna miss a thing. Soon after, she came back home. While waiting for her, he was watching her room through his monitor, which was streaming from the hidden cam in her room. Her door opened and she goes into her room. As soon as she got back, she turned on her computer. And watched the monitor for a while. He was watching her monitor and started to panic. What was on her screen? His room.
He has 7 younger siblings. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
My grandfather loves hiking. Even when he was so busy because of work, he tried to go to the mountains. People around him always told him to be careful, but he actually didn't care much. He looked like an adventurer who's waiting for some risky moment. He always went to the mountains with his best friend. The weird thing is, they weren't actually that close. But he always went hiking with him. Literal hiking buddy. After he got back from the mountains, he told me about his great adventures there, so I asked to join him, but he never took me. I was always so disappointed. In the winter, my grandfather and his friend went to the mountains. They were isolated because of the blizzard. A few days later, my grandfather was rescued, but his friend had gone missing. After winter ended, when the snow melted, his body was found, but it was destroyed. People assumed it was because of starving animals. My grandfather didn't want to go to the mountains after that accident. He was asked why, but never answered. Well, his friend may have been the reason. I thought so, at least. Years later, his sorrow about his friend might have faded. I went to visit him. It's been a long time since we've last seen each other. He suddenly asked me to go to the mountains with him. I was so happy with his idea. And wished this could relieve his trauma from the accident. My family told me it was too dangerous to go to the mountains with such bad weather. Wait until spring. But we ignored that. We were ready to be adventurers. While climbing, we talked a lot. He seemed happy to see his grandson all grown up. I was also happy to see his big smiles, which I haven't seen for years. An unexpected snowstorm suddenly covered us. We were isolated. It was supposed to be a one-day trip, so no food, and my phone died. I was so nervous. The rescue team might not find us in time. But my grandfather looked relaxed and told me with a smile, "Luckily, I have my emergency food like last time." Fortunately, a rescue team found us early. We all survived. But what if they had come late? And what was that emergency food he was talking about? OPS, I've got your packages. The delivery man rang the wrong door. The girl never ordered anything. Oh, sorry. I confused the address with your next door neighbors. Then he left. This has happened already more than 20 times. He always made the same mistake. Days after, the girl's friend came in to visit. They had a cozy time and just enjoyed chatting. OPS, I've got your packages. The friend asked her if she ordered anything, but she said no. She complained about the delivery guy. The guy always got confused with the addresses. Since both of the girls were wearing face masks, they decided to ignore the doorbell. He will leave when he finds out there's no one here. But, as if he knew there was somebody inside, he kept ringing the bell. She gave up and went to the door. When she tried to open it, her friend stopped her. She said something's weird and whispered to her to wait. She also thought the guy's knocking became kind of crazy, so they stayed quiet and kept an eye on the door. Then, the crazy knocking all of a sudden stopped, and the door just opened. Sorry, I confused your house with your neighbors again. The couple was poor, but sweet. Every Saturday night, the couple had a special schedule after dinner. The wife prepared some fruit, and the husband watched his favorite sports on TV. It was lottery draws. It just started. The numbers were coming out. The lottery is brand new and so popular. The probability of winning is extremely low, but the prize was huge. So if you win, you will become rich beyond your wildest dreams. During the lottery draws on the TV, the wife always prepared some fruit. The husband always wanted to enjoy the program with his wife, but never called her in. If they win, the wife would get a heart attack right away. She was delicate. The husband would turn to the match after checking the winning numbers, but his first three numbers were exactly the same as the winning numbers. He got tense and focused on the program. Meanwhile, another number was drawn. Okay, he just got another one right. Only one number and the golden ball left for the prize money. Just one number is okay. No golden ball necessary to win the huge money. Just one. Change your life. Just restart. But the next number was different from what he got. It's okay, he comforted his wife. Just one number lost from the normal balls, but the prize is so small. The third prize is the last big winner. Otherwise, only small amounts of money was given to the fourth place winner. The wife seemed disappointed, just peeled an apple. Then, the husband screamed out right after the golden ball number was drawn. The fourth became the third winner. At that moment.